Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Today, I'm joined by Liam Forde, who has a wonderful new album coming out called Great to Be Here, coming out on March 25th. The first single, My World's in Tune, is out now, available. Hello, Liam. Thank you for joining me.
Great to be here.
Can you firstly please introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about the album?
Well, as you said so beautifully, I'm Liam Forde, and for the past about 2 years, I've been working on this album. Great to be here. This first single, "When My World's in Tune," should give you a pretty good idea about the vibe of the album. It's sort of a pop jazz, dreamy, playful, super swinging album that is a dream come true, really.
Yeah. And what inspired the album?
Um, I often feel that I'm sort of out of tune with the
Yeah.
world around me in terms of where pop culture seems to be resting. I've always been such a romantic, and I've always been so wrapped up in old world romance. And I wanted to find a way to make that um, not relevant, but just kind of, I wanted to ask the question, I guess, about how that could exist in today's age without being pure nostalgia, but something that maybe we could take with us to make things a little bit, to quote one of my lyrics, maybe that's taggy, but just make things a little bit glowier.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously, you've kind of written it yourself with kind of collaborators. How easy is that then to, or easy or difficult, to kind of curate the track list?
Do you mean in terms of ordering, or just the tracks, or
Just like selecting them, I suppose, because obviously, guessing there's songs you kind of write that obviously don't make it. Mm.
um, Yeah, there were a lot of discussions around did we want it to be all original songs? It's a little bit risky. When this is my debut album. I don't have any other music really released of my own. So it is taking a risk doing completely new music that nobody knows, because there's nothing for people to really cling on to. It takes a while, or at least that's
Yeah,
what I'm hoping, for people to kind of catch on and decide it's something that they like and they want to follow. A lot of the songs, anybody who creates anything
yeah,
knows that that projects go through multiple iterations. So a lot of the songs were maybe three different songs, and then I ended up combining them all into one thing. I mean, it's funny. I actually, like, right here, I just have pages and pages
yeah.
of sketches of ideas of certain arrangements, or little horn licks, or ideas of stories that never made it onto the album. Um, I think often with creating, when you're really wrestling with something and it's just not coming out, it's best to leave it. So, like, for example, I have this. I couldn't get out of my head this idea about pieces of furniture in a room that
Yeah.
kind of when um, when the people leave at night, all of the furniture kind of has these wild parties, and it gets really kind of raucous. And I have, like, fragments of ideas and an idea of the rhythm, but I didn't quite. I couldn't get there. I think I
Yeah,
will eventually,
yeah.
but yeah, it's all a process.
And kind of when did you start songwriting in your life?
Uh, Elementary school, so maybe when I was 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah,
Um, I was always very moved by melody, and just the idea that the piano, my fingers could kind of create certain chords, that certain sounds that moved me for whatever reason. Um, and then I had written a lot of original material for my cabaret work here in New York, but this new kind of pop sound didn't really emerge until I started getting really serious about
Yeah.
getting this album out, which really started the month that COVID really took hold of the world, and we all went nuts.
Yeah. And why did you? I know you've kind of said it, setting the kind of vibe for the sound, but why did you select when my world's in tune for the kind of single?
Um, f- um, it's the first track on the album.
Yeah.
I also think it's a really good introduction song. It's basically about how I said I often feel out of tune with the world. Well, I wanted to write a song. I didn't want to write a song complaining about how I feel out of tune. I wanted to make something that feels like uh, when I am in tune.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good introduction about sort of here's who I am, and this is what it's like when I feel my best, and especially this with this rough patch that we've all been through. I think it can be very helpful to just think about the good times, you know.
And there's kind of I know you mentioned the pandemic. Has that kind of changed the album at all? Kind of, I know, gee, I know you've been ruminating a little while, but how long did that kind of evolve it at all?
Absolutely. There's one song that you will hear in a couple of weeks. Not to give too much away, but I would probably call that my pandemic song. I wrote it. I think every artist who was creating during this has something about, creating in the pandemic. But I wrote this one song I'm thinking of about exactly a year ago, last February, when things were still looking really, really grim and bleak. And that song came from, I had this plant here that was growing where this chair is right now.
Yeah.
And, it seemed like there was no hope at all. And I had this plant, and these windows here face the south. So any plants that like a lot of sunlight tend to do very well in these windows.
Yeah.
I looked down at this plant, and the plant just seemed to feel like it was glad to be in my apartment. And I looked down at it, and I said, "Hello, darling."
Yeah.
Because that to me in that moment meant the world.
Yeah.
When I felt like my career had just completely everything had dropped out.
Yeah, of course. And kind of, this is an impossible question. Do you have a favorite track on the album?
That will change.
Yeah,
that will
of course.
change maybe even by the minute or hour. But there is one song that really it tickles me. I've been working on it for years, and it tickles me every single time I do it. Again, I don't want to give too much away, but it's kind of the lyric and the story of it is actually written in the style of Noel Coward.
Yeah.
Because he's a huge inspiration of mine in terms of that he was able to do so many things. First of all, an actor, playwright, composer, lyricist, director, producer, and just that he kind of invented his own personal style. That when I found out about Noel Coward, I just thought, oh, I think I could be something like that in today's age. But anyway, it's a song about like a lot of the comedy songs that Coward wrote, just about a kind of middle-aged lady creature, I will say, who has certain kind of austere views of what life should be. And then something comes in and interrupts what that is, and she kind of turns her life around, and it's a pretty exultant and wacky journey for this character. That's what I'll say.
Very, very interesting. Obviously, a British audience may know you from your time in Eugenius. How do you kind of reflect kind of on that, and hopefully we'll get you back over here someday?
Oh, I'd love to.
Yes.
I made such great friends doing Eugenius: Laura Baldwin, Alex Tranter, Dan Buckley, Scott Page. I don't know if these names are buzzy, but
yes.
So I'm very grateful to Eugenius for introducing to those people to me. And I also, I really learned how to sing pop music
Yeah.
doing that show. They got me this wonderful voice coach, Maureen Scott, and she really turned things around for me and made me a better performer. I'm a voice teacher as well. She made me a much better voice teacher. I learned so much doing that show. I had a ball doing it. I miss it. I miss those people, and I miss the energy of that show. It has a little bit of that. Because it was based on a lot of those epic '80s films. It does have
Yeah.
that all American, you can do it type spirit, which I think I contain, probably because I'm a Yank.
Yeah. It was one of the first shows I kind of, so they streamed it, didn't they, on Facebook or somewhere during the isolation lockdown time. So it's one of the first shows I watched kind of in that kind of period. It was great.
Did it give you a lift?
It did. And it still does. It's one of them soundtracks you can just put on and kind of, like you say, it gives you a bit of a kick, especially like the title track.
Mm-hmm.
Superb. Mm-hmm. But other than that, other than Eugenius, what would you say has been your favourite role to play thus far in your career?
That's so hard. It's so hard. I should start to answer this by telling you that the impetus for the title of this album came from I would come into rehearsal for Eugenius every day,
Yeah.
and Ian, our director, would say, "Liam, do you have something you'd like to say to the cast?" And I would turn to everybody and with my big American smile say, "Guys, it's great to be here." And everyone in unison said, fuck off."
Yeah.
But I do tend to announce that when I'm lucky enough to have a job as an actor, which, as any actor knows, is not usually, right?
Yeah.
But so I forgot what the question was.
Favorite roles?
Oh,
There
so Eugene, for its own reason, I did. Off the top of my head, I loved playing Dickon in The Secret Garden. Um, I just really am crazy about that score. I did a play called Hand to God, which I know was on the West End kind of briefly. It's a play, it's not a musical,
Yeah.
that takes place in Texas about this very kind of repressed religious community and a boy and his mother dealing with uh, grieving the death of his father. Um, and then they are in this puppetry class, and this puppet takes on a potentially demonic life. And I did an immersive production of that in Washington, D.C. And we extended. I was lucky enough to win an award for it. That was a really big challenge and very, very rewarding.
Glorious. I have some, I call them quick fire questions, but you don't have to answer them quick if you don't want to. What would be the first piece of theatre that you remember seeing?
Oliver in a middle school production, and I had to play Oliver. Didn't get to.
Disappointing. And what would be your all-time kind of favourite piece of theatre?
Uh, Musicals, Gypsy or Sweeney Todd?
Good answer. Strong. What would be one? This could be anything. One thing from your bucket list.
You mean that I haven't done?
Yeah, I haven't done.
Make a successful album.
Well, it's about to be. It's about to happen. Touch wood. Touch wood. And talking of albums, this is a very difficult question. This can be any genre, but 3 of your favourite albums.
The first one that comes to mind is Miles Davis' Birth of the Cool. That really changed things around for me when I heard that for the first time. So Birth of the Cool, I'm going to say John Batiste's new album, We Are. I'm really inspired by John Batiste. And that Stan Getz Bossa Nova album.
Very good. And if you could record a duet with anybody, alive or dead, who would you choose?
Kay Thompson.
Very good. This is another difficult one that everyone struggles with, but you might not struggle with. If you could have dinner with any three guests, again, dead or alive, who would you invite?
Noel Coward.
Yes.
My favorite food writer, MFK Fisher. And maybe John Batiste. He seems like such a good guy.
Very good. Very good. And what would be the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Be yourself.
You've answered them well, to be fair.
I tried to be concise.
You've done well. You've done well. To kind of wrap the interview up, though, this is your chance to. I know you've sold it well already, but go for the big sell. Why should people order the album?
I think that we can all use a little bit more tenderness and curiosity in our lives, and a lot more joy. And I think that the album really will kind of delivers on all of that. I'm proud of a lot of parts of this album, but maybe the part that I'm most proud of is that it feels like there's so much joy pumped into it that I think can maybe hear on When My World's in Tune. The final track is now finished. That's called Gratitude Song. It's peppy, but so filled with joy and hope, and tenderness. And to me, that feels old-fashioned. And if that makes me old-fashioned, then so be it.
Very good. I must also mention you're doing a show, aren't you, on the night of the release?
Yes, if you're in town, come to hang with us at Rockwood. We're going to have a ball.
Glorious. So to anyone who wants to go, I'll put the link for tickets in the description below. And also the link to the album pre-order, which is out on March 25th. And that leaves me to thank you, Liam, for your time today.
Thanks, Mark.
With the album. Hope it all goes well.